So now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about this thing called percentiles. Percentiles are similar to what we had with quartiles, but this time what we're going to do is we're going to go and divide all the intervals into exactly 100 spots instead of 4. So for example, we're going to answer the following, okay? Betty is entering a class and she ranks in the 20th percentile. About what is her height? So here's what you do. Based on this chart, we have a certain number of people. So what we're going to do is we're literally going to take the information that we have on our screen here, and I'll show you in a little video. Imagine that we have this unorganized piece of information. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I select all the information in the cells once I've typed them in. Now, in order to sort it, you're going to go to data and then you're going to go to sort range. Inside sort range, you're going to select this thing called data and header row, because if you look at our list here, we have a header of person and height to identify each of the columns. So now, remember, you select, then you go to data, and then you go to sort range. So now you're going to tell it, sort each of the rows with respect to not by column A, but by its column B. You must select the data header, and then what that does is it organizes the information from smallest to largest, going from top to bottom. And there we go. There is our organized set of information. So now let's talk about how this stuff works. Now, from the video that we just did, I just copied basically our organized set of information. Now, here's the thing. We said that percentiles are similar to quartiles. However, this is what you need to understand. When I say I have the 20th percentile, that means the following. And this is what it means for Betty. It means that 20% of the people are below her. And in this case, when I have the 20th percentile of these people, that means 20% of the people are below her in height. So now let's go and figure out how we're going to calculate that based on our new chart that we have right here. So if I want the 20th percentile, what I'll write is P of 20 is equal to, well, if you look at this set, there's 14 different possibilities that we have here, okay? So in order to figure out where we need to go, we literally have to do the following. So for A, we're literally going to go and write 14, and we're going to times it by 0.2, which means that there are that it's position 2.8. So this value here, the 14, is the population. This value is the percentage. Okay, and then this is how many people below. And that's pretty much it. So when we're looking for that, P of 20 is 14 times 10, which is 2.8. So in order for us to find these people, we have to find exactly, well, since there's no eighth of a person, we're actually going to find the third person in this list. 1, 2, 3. So that means Stacy, which means that we have Stacy being the person just after the 20th person. So that means Betty is approximately 160 centimeters tall. So now let's take a look at question B on this problem. It says, Mr. Agar is 177.5 centimeters tall, right? Determine his place in the class. So in order to do that, right, we have to find 177.5 centimeters. Okay. So in order to find that, you have to go to that portion of the list that has it. So I'm just going to highlight that right now. There we go. So there's 175.5. And in order to be just before that or just after that, that's exactly, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 people. So literally, we have 9 people below us. So for Mr. Agar, there are 9 people below him. So that's where our cutoff is. So there's 9 people divided by 14. So just remember, this 9 on the top is the people below. And then what we're going to do is we're literally just going to times it by 100 to find our percentage, right? Remember that the 14 on the bottom is the total number of people. And basically we have 9 over 4, which is 9 over 14, which is 0.642, which is approximately 64%. So Mr. Agar is in the 64th percentile. And we're done. Now, for part C, if I wanted to find the 70th percentile of my information, what we're going to do is we need to figure out where 70% is, right? So if I want to find the 70th percentile, I literally have to find P of 70, which is just, well, here we go. It's just going to be 14 times 0.7, which is approximately 9.8, which is really 10. So now that I know that it's 10, I know that when I go to, say, Brandon here, Brandon represents the 70th percentile. And that's our answer. So you wouldn't necessarily say it's just Brandon is the 70th percentile. You'd actually say what Brandon's height is. So in this case, our percentile is, our P of 70 is 180 centimeters. And we are done. So the next thing that we're going to look at is a thing called standard deviation. No, not standard deviation. We're using Z-scores. So now we're going to study this thing called a Z-score. Okay? So a Z-score tells us the following. It tells us, this Z-score tells us how many standard deviations the data is above X, which is Z, for which its Z-score is a positive number, or below which is for which it's a negative from the mean. So now this is the formula. I'm just going to zoom in here. The formula is given by this, where we have Z is equal to the data point minus the mean divided by the standard deviation. Okay? That's basically it. So now let's get on to the problem of the day. So determine the following. Z-score. If Mr. Agar is 177.5 centimeters tall. And Betty's height, if her Z-score is negative 0.15. So the key idea here is we're going to be using our Z-score that we talked about up here. And the one thing that we need is the mean and the standard deviation. You can use a spreadsheet to put these numbers in. And what you do for your spreadsheet when you punch them in is you use the following function in Google Sheets. After you've typed all this information into a cell, into all the cells in your Google spreadsheet, what you're going to do is you're going to type in at the bottom equals STDEV, and then you're going to select the cells that you want the standard deviation for. Okay? Now you can also find the mean. So remember, this is your standard deviation. You can calculate it using your calculator on the computer. And then for the mean, we take the sum and divide it by the number. If you decide to do it on your Google spreadsheet, what you use is, for the mean on the Google spreadsheet, you're going to use average. And then the cells that you want to use. Okay, so that's what you need to use. That's what you need to use for your calculation. So this just makes your life a little easier. If I ever ask you to show your work, you're going to have to do the work by hand that we practiced yesterday. Now, in this case, our standard deviation and variance are given by this. X is equal to 173.6 and S is equal to 17.9 centimeters. Either by doing it by hand or using Google spreadsheets. So now, if we need to find Mr. Agar's Z-score, this is what we do. The first thing that you're going to have to do is you're going to have to start with your basic equation. Then we take this 175 and put it in where X is. And substitute the mean and standard deviation. And we get this, which gives us 0.22. So now let's just write our Z-score. So the Z-score is 0.22. So what's that saying is it's 0.22 deviations above my mean. That's what it means. So just make sure you make note of that in your work today. So now I'm just going to move this up because we're still going to calculate Betty's height. So Betty's height is given by this. Well, we start by writing out our equation for the Z-score. And no, we're not American. We don't say Z. Just kidding. And then we substitute everything we know. Now, this is saying our Z-score is negative 0.15 below the mean. So we literally have to put Z is negative 0.15. So now we don't know what Betty's height is, but we do know the mean and the standard deviation. So the only thing that isn't filled in this problem is the letter X. So we just fill in everything else. And so now we solve for X. For this type of problem, you multiply across to get negative 0.15 times 17.9 is equal to X minus 173.6. Now the left side ends up being negative 2.7 is equal to x minus 173.6. And now we just solve for x. And with doing the manipulations, you find out that x is 170.9, which was Betty's height. So Betty's height is 170.9 meters.